survivor, descendants, and a bereaved community seeks the administration in some action akin to justice. Tulsa's race relations are more ceremonial, likened to a bad marriage, with spouses living in the same quarters but housed in different rooms, each escaping one another by perpetuating a separateness of silence. The French political historian Alexis de Tocqueville noted, "Once the majority has irrevocably decided a question, it is no longer discussed. This is because the majority is a power that does not respond well to criticism." Attorney B.C. Franklin, one of the genuine heroes in the aftermath of the race war, heeded the call to settle into Indian territory. In his memoirs, Attorney Franklin wrote of the two men, whom he called very rich Negroes and the greatest leaders, O.W. Gurley and J.B. Stratford. In 1908, Gurley constructed the first building, a rooming house, and later the home of Vernon AME Church, on a muddy trail that would become the Black Wall Street of America. According to B.C. Franklin, Gurley bought 30 or 40 acres, plotted them, and had them sold to Negroes only. Attorney Franklin's account of the settlement of Greenwood shattered earlier notions of blacks being forced in a section of town. It now appears the division was self-imposed. In the end, Attorney Franklin wrote, Tulsa became one of the most sharply segregated cities in the country. J.B. Stratford would later join Gurley on Greenwood and build the finest hotel in the city, valued at $75,000. Before statehood, the territory had been seen by blacks as not only the promised land, more notably as the nation's first all-black state. E.P. McCabe was the leading advocate of all-black towns and had migrated from Kansas and founded Langston, Oklahoma. A former Kansas auditor active in Republican politics, McCabe had also become the assistant auditor of Oklahoma. He would lead a crusade to press President Benjamin Harrison into bringing the Indian Territory into the Union as an all-black state. Against that backdrop, Gurley viewed his acres as a natural urban evolution from the rural trend of organizing black towns. White Democrats prepared for the state constitutional convention by using the black statehood issues and racist attacks against the Republican, N-word-loving opponents. Both Democrats and Republicans would disenfranchise blacks during the balloting for control of the convention. The Democrats won, and sometimes with the Ku Klux Klan as allies, maintains political control of the state into the millennium. After statehood, the first bill passed by the Oklahoma legislature was the infamous Senate Bill 1 that tightly segregated the state. Stratford and his friend A.J. Smitherman, publisher of the Tulsa Star newspaper, were brave, tenacious advocates on behalf of their race. After Stratford was acquitted for violating Oklahoma Jim Crow laws in 1912, the hotel owner filed a lawsuit in the state Supreme Court, suing the Midland Valley Railroad for false imprisonment. In a narrowly interpreted decision, the court opined the unconstitutionality of the Jim Crow law did not affect the right of the conductor to rely upon it. Similarly, the court rested upon a case filed by E.P. McCabe challenging Oklahoma's segregation, dismissing the McCabe argument as irrelevant to the case. 4 years later, Stratford petitioned the Tulsa City Commission against its segregationist ordinance that such a law is to cast a stigma upon the colored race in the eyes of the world, and to sap the spirit of hope for justice before the law from the race itself. The Tulsa City Ordinance would remain on the books until the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Reparations. It happened. There was murder, false imprisonment, forced labor, a cover-up, and local precedents for restitution. While the official damage was estimated at $1.5 million, the black community filed more than $4 million in claims. All were denied. However, the City Commission did approve 2 claims exceeding $5,000 for guns and ammunition taken during the racial disturbance of June 1st. In his memoirs, Stratford recalled the guards acted like wild men. The militia had been ordered to take charge, but instead they joined the rioter. His view is supported by action of the governor in a concerted effort to rid the National Guard of the Ku Klux Klan in 1922. The preponderance of the information demands what was promised. Whether it was the Ku Klux Klan instigated land speculators' conspiracy, inspired by yellow journalism or random acts, it happened. Justice demands a closure, as it did with Japanese Americans and Holocaust victims of Germany. It is a moral obligation. Tulsa was likely the first city in the U.S. to be bombed from the air. There was a precedent of payments to at least 2 white victims of the riot. The issue today is what government entity should provide financial repair to the survivors and the condemned community that suffered under vigilante violence. The report tells the story. Let justice point the finger and begin the reconciliation. And finally, vigilantes underdeputized and under the color of law destroyed the Black Wall Street of America. Some known victims were in unmarked graves in a city-owned cemetery, and others were hauled off to unknown places in full view of the National Guard. The mob torched the soul of the city, an evil from which neither whites nor blacks have fully recovered.